Let's ring the doorbell. No, don't ring the doorbell. It's Kenan. Look, not exactly the ring I expect this house to have. Now he's more what I would expect this house to have. Hey, I'm Kel, man. I love your doorbell. Take it with me. Woo! One more time. Don't make it.
Welcome back to Two Heads Are Better Than None, the Kenan and Kel with Adam and Aaron series finale, sequence, special, part 2. There's so many pieces to that puzzle. I'm Adam.
I'm happy to be a part of this complicated puzzle, and I'm Aaron. And Adam, I would consider us to be better at podcasting about Kenan and Kel together than we would be by ourselves.
I agree.
Because that might be very boring.
That was my initial premise for this program. It was going to be Kenan and Kel with Adam. And I'm like, this is a duo material. It would be very boring. It was just my thoughts about how much Rigby's is spending every week.
Speaking of Rigby's spending, Adam, I have a potential suggestion for how to improve Kenan and Kel's last episode / TV movie.
Okay, go on.
We haven't even seen parts 2 and 3 yet, and I know our audience is waiting. But I would have loved to have seen the movie be like in Kenan and Kel world about maybe Rigby's like has to close.
Ooh.
And
okay.
Kenan has to go to college. Do you know you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Because I'm having a great time. I had a great time with that first episode of Two Heads Are Better Than None, and I'm really excited to do part 2 and 3. But I'm also not looking forward to it because these are probably two of my least favorite Kenan and Kel episodes. Because the first episode was great, and then the next two are just not doing it for me. And I really miss Chris, and I miss Charla. I miss our friends back at Rigby's and our small world Kenan and Kel, who aren't afraid of anything.
Yeah,
but
I know what you're saying. It's that Kenan and Kel has it has like a spiritual finale in the April Fools. It's got the clip show episode. It's got, this TV movie, but none of them are functionally a series finale of Kenan and Kel.
Yeah.
None of them are like a goodbye, Chris, goodbye, Chicago. We're leaving the world of Kenan and Kel. Instead, we have this kind of, I would almost call it like a spin-off. Like, this is a movie that, I mean, on the timeline doesn't fit in anywhere. I assume it's the summer after Kenan's senior year. That's their age and everything like that. But if you told me this was the summer after their junior year or sophomore year, it doesn't matter. The progression of the characters is, nothing happens. I wouldn't say that. Some things happen, especially in this episode segment. But they're very minor lowercase arcs. It's nothing big, no major payoffs. That's not, and part of that's because that's not what they did for TV back in the 90s. I think it's a very late aughts and 2010s phenomenon to have a big send-off to a TV show.
Yeah. Part of me feels like season 4 of Kenan and Kel was just kind of pieced together. Mm-hmm. Like the April Fool's episode was filmed in November and then it wasn't released until April, and there's just missing pieces because they would have already have graduated from high school then, and what are they doing? Just like hanging out, and like there's no continuity with like the characters going through life. It kind of just happens that we just throw these skits together. After kind of falling in love with Kenan and Kel in the past 4 years, you would suspect if you're watching the show, when it aired, I think you would have wanted a little bit more. But that's just my initial hunch.
I don't disagree. In my experience, when I'm being 7 when this aired, I didn't know Kenan and Kel was over. I didn't know when Drake and Josh was over.
Right.
It's they hint at it. They kind of do a big to-do. And usually drop some of their best kind of wrap-up episodes by the end. But you don't know it's over until it's a couple years later. Hey, shouldn't there be new episodes now? It's oh, I guess there's never, and sometimes you don't know that.
And it was just canceled, right? And maybe that's for kids, because you don't want kids to be upset that their favorite show's over, because then the show causes the parents a lot of headache.
They don't wave goodbye anymore to like programs. They just like it continues on perpetually, and they want kids to know that so they can keep showing reruns. They don't want to say, I'm not watching Kenan and Kel reruns anymore because there's no more new Kenan and Kel.
Right, there's no more like canon.
Yeah, so I mean that's it's real interesting how like kind of the years have changed, and I don't know. I'm sure we'll have an episode about like potential reboot series and what it would focus on and stuff like that. And sometimes those two, they forget what happens throughout the course of the program.
Yeah.
On the Disney Channel, they've got Raven's Home. It's a That's So Raven like sequel series.
Uh-huh.
And it's like on this new season, Raven's going back to her like old family home, and you see her there, and like her dad Victor is around.
Oh, awesome!
Yeah, it's pretty neat. But then like you go over the canon, you're like, wait a second, are we just gonna ignore the part in the middle where her dad became a White House chef? Like
right.
Corey in the house. Are we just gonna pretend like they didn't sell their family home?
Absolutely, if that's what we're pretending. Well, did you watch any of it, Adam? Do you know if they mentioned it?
To be honest, I don't know that.
Ah.
I know there's canon too, like about like they're explaining the way their mother isn't in the show anymore, and like in Corey in the House, like she was like in school, something like overseas or some nonsense like that. So
here we are, anyways. And Adam, for one of the first time, we got to get to our program here, obviously.
Yes, of course.
For one of our first times. Not the first time, but one of the only times in the history of Kenan and Kel we have a cliffhanger. Probably the third time, to be exact.
Yes.
In a very clumsy way, Kenan was about to get his head chopped off after he woke up from a dream.
Real quick recap of the last episode, if it might be a week to our listeners, our fantas. Kenan and Kel are on a road trip, and along the way, Kenan has been stalked by this headless knight figure. They learned about him at the Believe It or Not Museum, the Believe It or Else Museum, that he wears his victims' heads as his own and eats their bodies. So the last part ended with them in a hotel room where there's a knight, a silhouette of a knight with a giant axe coming through the motel door to chop Kenan. He screams. Fast
forward to a week later, and Kenan is smacked on the head
by a fly swatter,
wielded by Kel.
Kel cheers that he got the fly that was on Kenan's head. And yeah, Kenan, I guess, was leaving your consciousness of sleep. Like, he wasn't perceiving the world around him perfectly. But even though in the movie production they made no attempt to make it look like Kel at first.
No attempt at all. No, it looked like an axe, like a spooky looking axe.
Yeah, very spooky. It was curved blade. And dangerous.
Kel kind of closes the door, which was open and had a red light shining through it.
It's room 7 at the motel.
Why was the door open, Adam?
Well, Kel explains that he opened the door because it was hot in there. He didn't want to open the window because a stranger could just climb in through there.
So just leave the door open. Why not? Yes. So then Kel kind of just comes over, and Kenan's like, Kenan just laying there terrified after waking up from a nightmare, and Kel goes, "Kenan, you look tense. Let me put that on the bed massager for you."
Yep. So he puts a quarter into the bed massager, and the whole bed starts jiggling and quaking, and Kenan is just being tossed about.
Yep. It goes, "Okay, Kel, turn it off now."
And Kel explains it doesn't have a turn off. It'll end soon, I'm sure.
Yep. Kel turns the light off. They go to bed. They're sleeping. Fast forward to morning, and Kenan has not stopped shaking from the massage bed. His dreadlocks are standing up straight. I don't know what the physics is there. Static electricity, maybe. But Kel is just well rested, and then Kenan is just looks miserable and trapped. Really, I laughed a lot at this. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, it's a very funny image, and I like the fact that Kenan was so off by this. He didn't move. He didn't sleep on a couch that you can see, or the floor, or Kel's bed.
He was probably still scared.
Actually, that is actually a really good point. He was so scared to leave the bed, but he was also being unable to sleep.
The paradox of the massage bed.
Yeah, it's like in the winter when, like, I really gotta pee, but it's so warm and cozy in here.
Yeah, it's like, I don't think I will. So then we cut outside after Kenan starts to get ready. We cut outside to Roger taking off the gas cap, and he's about to fill up the gas tank.
This is, I think, a very good scene. Probably the best one of this episode, and very relevant to our current day and age.
I would agree with that.
So when I go back to watch movies from my, when I was younger, there's these different eras that I see myself in. I think Aladdin is an example I point to. It's like, I remember seeing Aladdin when I was 7, and I loved it. It was very, colorful and crazy and kooky. I remember seeing Aladdin when I was 17, and I still liked it, because I appreciate a lot more the story and the music and how it goes. And watching it at 27, a couple years, a year or so back, I had a great time with it still, because I'm like, this is just a really well put together picture, and I love all the performances. This is the perfect package. Going back to Two Heads Are Better Than None, there have been, the gas prices that we see, reflect basically when I was a child when I first saw it, so when I was a teenager, and now.
That's funny. That's funny.
So how much is gas, and what's a good buy, as Roger says?
$1.23.
Yep.
$1.23 a gallon.
So, Kel wants to pump the gas, and what's the result of this?
Roger goes, no, I'm pumping the gas. He goes, I'll pump the gas. I'll pump the gas. Kel exclaims. And eventually Roger just gets soaked with gasoline.
Unsafe.
Terrible. Horrible, horrible, horrible. And he doesn't change his clothes, by the way, for the rest of the 2 episodes. So he's just reeking of gasoline this entire time.
It's very unfortunate. Instead of that, Kel says, I'm going to look under the hood.
Yep. That's not good.
No, we'll learn more about that later.
Over to Kenan walks a man who works at the gas station very clearly, because he is disgusting.
Yeah, he's covered in filth, and he says, hey, I work at the gas station. And Kenan says, hey, I work at the grocery store.
And then he says, my name's Francis. Except the only problem is his name tag on his, gas station shirt says Steve.
Yeah, so when Kenan points that out, he's like, whoa, gotcha, my name is Steve. And he starts slapping him, with his dirty hands.
Sticking his greasy paws all over Kenan.
I will say, too, remembering this from, when I was younger, I could have sworn when I was younger this guy was played by Dan Schneider.
Kind of like how in Kangaroo Jack, I thought the main character was played by Kenan Thompson.
Yes, right. Funny how that stuff happens. So, when I watched it, later on, maybe a couple of years ago, I'm like, oh, that's not Dan Schneider, great. But now I recognize him. Do you recognize this guy?
I knew he was from somewhere, but I really, I don't know.
You may have seen him 2 or 3 episodes ago.
Oh, is he the fireman?
No, before that.
I don't know.
You might recognize him from the April Fools.
Is he the pie guy? Pie delivery guy?
Nope. When Kenan goes to jail, he is greeted by...
Is he the thief?
Yeah, he's meth guy.
He's the crazy, scary guy.
Yeah, he's the crazy, scary meth guy.
Oh, that's pretty funny.
Yeah, I think he's Steve McCrary.
Steve.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Joel McCrary. I call him Steve, too. But yeah, no, Joel McCrary plays the meth guy in that one, and this guy in this.
Well, thank you very much for your plethora of abilities to act in different... I don't even know what I'm saying. So this guy, Steve, who just said his name was Francis, seems like a little bit of a scummy guy, just because he has scum on his hands.
A bit of a nutcase.
And so Roger goes to pay him. He gives him $50 after filling up, and he says, you owe me $6. And Roger goes, no, you actually owe me money.
Yeah, gas is $123. That's a $50 bill.
And you look back at the sign, and it says, no. He says, no, it's $2.63. And so they just went off and changed the gas price.
Mm-hmm. And Roger starts, getting mad at him. He's like, actually, and meanwhile, the sign behind him is changing to the outlandish price. The unbelievable gas price of $3.86.
Absolutely unbelievable, Adam.
I fell in love for $3.86 earlier this week. It's just so funny to see that.
Yeah,
and Roger's like, this is unbelievably expensive.
Right. And so he's like, actually, you owe me $32. And then Roger gives him, $56 or whatever it was.
I'm not paying you another dollar more over this $6.
$2.63. And he says something like, oh, I appreciate it, man. Or I appreciate you. You're a good man.
Kenan, at one point in the background, shouts, Daddy, just pay the man. Just don't touch his hands.
Exactly.
I have a theory for you.
Go ahead.
This is not Steve. This guy's name is Francis, and he was the meth guy from Chicago.
Oh, but he broke out.
He broke out of prison. He got on the lam, and he disguised himself as a gas station. And he has a business where he extorts money out of people. That's his buddy changing the price tag.
Sure, that fits. I like that. Why not?
Yeah, that's why he has a name tag. It's not the name that he called himself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's a skeevy guy. Maybe he recognized Kenan for all the havoc that he got into.
He got nervous when Kenan said they worked at a grocery store. He's like, oh no, is he going to remember me?
Maybe, Adam. I don't know. If so, yes. If not, okay.
Who else is at this gas station, Aaron?
A creepy old man who says, "Stay away from Rockville," as he holds on to his cane, which is just a big stick.
Stay away from Rockville.
And his ripped cardigan and dirty face. Everybody's scared looking at him, and then Kel's just kind of like amazed. He's like, cool.
There's a really cool effect as they drive away. You see his reflection in the car. Did you catch this?
Yeah, the reflection is in the rear view or the side mirror, and then the car, you realize the camera's like looking at it, but then it's so close up, then you realize that it was in the rear view or the side mirror when they drive away. So his face was in that. That was pretty cool.
This movie was directed by Michael Grossman, and I think if he has a hint, a tell, it's hard to tell in just these couple episodes, but it's mirror work. He loves playing with mirrors and doing cool effects with them.
Yeah, it seems like they're just kind of doing whatever they can with as much as they have. You know what I mean? Like they're maximizing their ability.
I applaud anyone that can go the extra mile with this material that's given.
Definitely.
For these couple episodes. So.
Definitely. Yeah, that's what happened for sure.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, Kel is ecstatic in the car. He's like, man, that was so cool. What happened to us that happens in every horror movie. It's like we're in a horror movie.
And Roger's like, calm down. Kel's all excited. Everybody else is pretty terrified. Because a lot of scary things have happened so far. Right? We have Kenan seeing the Headless Knight. We have the Headless Knight at the museum. We have that guy showing up. And then, of course, Kenan's nightmares, but that was kind of Kenan specific.
They've been hinting at this spooky stuff coming their way, which is good because we don't get to the spookiest stuff until this episode. I'm glad that the first kind of 45 minutes or so, they really tease you into it.
And then Kel's like, man, I feel like I'm in a horror movie.
Yeah.
Cheryl's just kind of rolling her eyes, taking deep breaths, calming herself down, kind of reflecting the internal mood of the whole group.
And we could do more Kel montage in the car.
My legs hurt. Can we go to the bathroom? I'm bored. Roger, you smell like gas. I need to go to the bathroom. Oh, I really do.
I don't think in earlier showings he got that context, but he smells like gas because he sprayed him with gasoline.
Right, of course.
Yeah.
Where are we? Can we turn on the radio? I'm bored.
And everyone just shouts, Kel!
Yep, they ask him to be quiet because he is just horrible.
Cheryl says, Roger, we haven't seen any signs of civilization in a while.
Yeah, we forgot to mention before they got on the road that Roger wanted to take back roads today instead of just the main highway.
That's also an our dad move for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Except our dad knows how to read a map. We didn't see Roger with a map this episode, which I really would have liked to seen.
No, although I think it's very in character for Roger to just think he can do something. This is pretty much the same as him getting a job as a mountain ranger.
100%. Yeah, that's exactly right.
He kind of doesn't really think it through. It's his character flaw for sure. Yep.
Yeah, he's very arrogant. And angry because he's just being constantly pestered and annoyed.
The rest of this movie is also a lot of, you can see, the world is kind of against him, too. In a cosmic, supernatural sense.
Yeah, nothing is going right for Roger.
They're just talking about, oh, yeah, we'll stop at the next gas station.
Right, and then Kenan goes, we haven't seen a gas station for 6 hours. Thump. The car breaks down, basically. The car breaks down.
We're in, a kind of I would call a plateau, a big, it's not a full desert, but it's very desert-like.
Yep,
you have one of those oil rigs in the distance.
Yeah, we see an oil rig for sure. So there's definitely people around sometimes, but maybe not a lot. Roger opens the hood and it's smoking. Kyra goes, what are we going to do, Daddy?
I suppose you know how to fix the car. And then it honks and he hits his head and Kel, he's like, oh, horn still works.
Kenan's just like, oh, we're going to be stuck here forever.
And then salvation arrives.
In the form of a station wagon littered with bumper stickers.
It's the Shellys.
Yep, they are driving right by. They're wearing overalls and pink shirts. Mm-hmm. They say, thanks again for the catch-up, wave, and then keep on going.
I always love this bit.
It's like, what?
Although I think when I was like at my youngest watching this, like it's a little creepy. It's a little like it's very frustrating too. It's the most frustrating Kenan and Kel thing that happens.
Yeah, it's kind of upsetting because I mean, like, hey, I mean, I know they seem a little bit aloof, but like, come on.
It's a very good joke subversion because we've seen them twice before, and now it's like the third time. It's like, oh great, they're going to help them out, and they just keep going.
They do not help. Not at all.
So, what plan did the Rockmores come up with?
So basically, Roger's gonna stay with Cheryl and Kyra. They're gonna stay by the car. Kenan and Kel are gonna go and find help.
Yeah, they're gonna go to the next town. That's ahead.
And luckily, there's a sign posted ahead that's just a little dusty. So the whole family goes up to dust off the sign to see where Kenan and Kel are gonna go.
Any guesses, Fantas? Send your comments into KenanandKelPodcast@gmail.com if you have any guesses as to where the Kenan and Kel are going to be going. I hope you've cast your vote, and let's see who's right. All right, Aaron, where are they going?
They're going to Richmond, Virginia.
Yeah, Richmond, Virginia. I bet you didn't have that one on that one. We only have one listener that got that right. We have one listener from Danville, Virginia, who has listened to probably every episode multiple times, unless it's a group of listeners. And the whole country and the whole planet, there's one town that keeps listening to our podcast.
And we are so happy that you exist, Danville. Unfortunately, we aren't going to Virginia, though. We're going to Rockville. Rockville, unknown state, unknown location, headed towards an unknown destination.
Just says Rockville.
Rockville.
It always kind of bothered me that they're the Rockmores and this town is Rockville, and there's no real reason for it.
Maybe because it's all a hallucination, Adam?
Oh yeah, maybe there's something like deep going on here.
Well, I mean, they're surrounded by rocks, so it seems like an obvious name for a town.
I guess so. I mean, we see some like night illusions later on. And there's some themes and stuff like that. Okay.
Let's not jump ahead of ourselves there, Adam.
No, all right. Kenan gets freaked out when he sees the sign because he's like, Rockville, that's where like the scary guys said not to go, and that's where the sign supposed to be. And this might be one of my favorite parts of this whole movie because it's the only part that has like the start of a mini arc, and Roger like gets real serious with Kenan.
Yeah.
It's very nice. He gives him like a little pep talk.
Yeah, because Kenan's freaking out. Because he's like, I am not going to Rockville. But they need him to.
And he's kind of like, it's just a made-up story. I won't let you go if there's no danger. But your family needs you to do this.
Yeah, so what Roger does here is he gets, real serious with Kenan. And he does what any good parent would do. And instills in him a sense of false confidence in something that he cannot prove and does not know.
Yes. He's like, oh, yeah, you got this, man. You don't worry about it.
There's no headless night. Rockville's just a nice town with people that can help us.
And then Kenan like reluctantly goes like, okay, I'll do it, Dad.
I wouldn't let you go if they would put you in any danger. It's like
lies.
That's easy for you to say, Mr. I want to stay with the car, says Kel. Breaking this sentimental moment. And then he goes, help us, son. Your family needs you to do this.
Yeah, he agrees. And he's like, that's my boy. And they hug.
Yeah. Very like, this is the beginning of a hero's journey right here.
I wish more of the movie was like this, honestly, because it would pay off in a good way.
That's what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. This movie could have been this, like, seminal moment for Kenan and Kel, because the whole show has kind of been about their innocence as young kids, and they're growing up but not wanting to lose their childhood innocence. But we get this one sentimental moment, and we're like, okay, we'll take it.
They're giving each other a big hug. Kel joins the group hug. Kyra says, "I'll miss you," and then she has her callback line, right?
Yep.
What does she say?
And then Kenan says, "Oh, I'll miss you too," and she says, "I was talking to Kel."
But after that, there's still this like little like awkward sibling handshake that they do.
Yeah, right.
And she's like, "I was just kidding. I'll miss you too." It's really nice.
Kenan's walking away, and he pulls out a wedgie, and then instantly they're walking, and it's a hot desert, and Kel goes, "Water, must have water." And he starts doing the screw in the tuna knees,
and he falls on it, right on his back.
He's like, "Kel, come on, get up." This is my favorite part. We zoom out, and they're about 50 yards away from the car.
50 feet away.
Okay, there we go.
They're like right past the sign.
Yep, they haven't really gone very far. But they do get some water from Kyra.
Yeah. He's like, can we have some water?
It would have been funnier if it was orange soda, but...
Yeah, that's true.
I haven't had orange soda in 3 days.
He's going through withdrawal is what's going on. That's why he's so, like, hyper in the car.
Yeah, right, exactly.
For some reason, I always remember this little sequence here of them, like, walking through, like, the woods. It looks like they're almost like on a paved, like, pathway.
They are definitely on a paved road with trees all around. It went from desert to forest really quick.
Yeah, it's like a rainforest.
Not really a rainforest, but... Yeah, it went from, like, the dry shrubs to, like, greenery all around them.
Oh, yeah.
Kel has drank all his water. He asks Kenan for some.
And he also notices that he's, like, checking his pockets, and he has these, like, very pretty wires, that as he calls them.
Yep.
Kenan's like, hey, what are those?
And Kel's, like, oh, I found them in the car, like, at the gas station. Like, they looked really pretty, so I just had to have them.
Yeah, and we cut back to the car, and they're working on it, and Kyra's the one that points out, like, hey, looks like some wires are missing.
Roger goes, I'll take care of it, honey.
So we go back to Kenan and Kel, and Kel's asking for water, but suddenly he doesn't need water anymore. Why is that?
It starts raining. And because it's raining, and Kel masterfully packed his luggage, he pulls out his umbrella. A little callback from last episode.
Yeah, which, I mean, I always appreciate that as a kid. That's a good bit.
I think so.
It's like all he has is orange soda and an umbrella, and like that's his only luggage, and the umbrella comes in handy.
Yep, and so now Kenan's getting soaked, and Kel is walking with the umbrella, and they're walking towards Rockville.
They arrive in town. It's got a sign that says, "Welcome to beautiful Rockville." Is Rockville beautiful, Aaron?
No. Well, maybe. It depends on your definition of beauty. Conventionally, I would say no, but if you really, really wanted it to be, potentially.
It looks like 2 abandoned shacks, and like a dirt road up to the top of a mountain where the only workable structure is.
Which is a giant mansion.
A big mansion on a spooky hillside, and it's raining and there's lightning behind it, and Kenan's just so mad. He's so upset that it's come to this.
Yeah, because he knew this was going to happen, right? This whole time. He's like, I saw the headless knight. Nobody believed me. I didn't want to go to Rockville. Nobody cared. And here we are. We're about to go to like the creepiest looking building that's well put together and like very nice in this dinky little town, which right by the Rockville sign, there's just like a giant R made out of rocks, which I did like.
Oh, nice. Yeah, okay, maybe that is the rock like feeling of it. They're in the middle of nowhere, it's scattered, there's just rocks. Okay, whatever. We talked about how this episode is kind of an allusion to Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein, old classic comedy duo in a horror setting. The Kenan and Kel twist on that, and on paper this makes perfect sense, is that Kenan is aware that he's in a horror movie. Like, that's like the meta theme to this. And so, but he's scared, so he's very frustrated and upset by this. So that's what you're seeing here, and I think it works.
I think so too. We go to commercial, and it's raining, but it's dark. It's like kind of twilight. When we come back from commercial, it's dark and it's pouring, and they go up to the gate.
There's a shield symbol on the fence. I think Kenan's like, oh well, it's locked. We're done. And Kel just opens it, and he's like, no, it's not.
Go to the front door.
A little hooded figure like sneaks behind and locks the gate behind them. Did you catch that?
I did.
Yeah, they don't really acknowledge it, and I guess maybe it's to show that the gate's locked later on.
Potentially, yeah.
But
Kenan's like having second thoughts, and then it's like, oh man, let's just go back. And then Kel goes to ring the doorbell, which is this giant lever. And what the theme is kind of like an ice cream truck theme when it rings.
Yeah, I wrote that. It's La Cucaracha.
Yeah, there you go. A very, very, very terrifying man opens the door.
Yes. The character that we later learn is called Chives.
Hence Drake and Josh.
Yeah. I didn't know if Chives is a real name.
Right.
He's played by Michael Berryman, who has a lot of horror roots in The Hills Have Eyes. He plays Pluto in that film. He's also Weird Science. He's in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. He's kind of a big get. And he's a weird-looking bald man.
Yeah, is he actually like a famous actor?
I would say yeah. He's probably as well known in the horror world as, say, Ken Foree is.
Okay. Yeah, he's very intimidating looking. And Kenan and Kel are just doing their normal spiel. They're kind of just like explaining what happened. They try to like introduce himself, like give him like a hug or like a handshake. He's like not having it. It's like, okay, see, our car broke down about 10 miles away. Then he turns around. He's like, oh, but you don't care about that kind of stuff. And then they just like, okay, should we follow him? He's just walking away from us back into the house.
Yeah. At one point, like, you see this scary guy, and Kel's just like, man, I love your doorbell, and he pulls it again. And they're just standing there, and he's looking at them. But yeah, he doesn't say any. He has 2 lines in this, but like they're later on. For the most part, he's like mute. He doesn't say anything. He turns around, and they're like, oh, I guess we'll follow him.
Yep. And then Kenan is just running his mouth. He's like, oh, like this is a really nice house. You know, we were outside being wet and being cold, and but you must be the butler. Are you the butler? Butler's a funny word because it has butt in it.
That's a joke that I loved when I was 7, and by the 17, I'm like, yeah, okay, great, good job. First time you ever did this one.
He's just kind of improvising. He's like, doing his thing.
Oh yeah, figure they're like, oh, I guess we'll wait here in this hallway where you leave us off. A lot of portraits in this hallway, right?
Yeah, very spooky.
And as they do with all spooky portraits, the eyes pull away from one, you see someone's real eyes are behind it.
Yep. Kenan and Kel start kind of looking around. Kenan sees a suit of armor.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, at this point, you kind of have a feeling about what's happening in this TV movie.
Yeah, you see where this is going.
It's pretty obvious. I mean, don't go to Rockville, right? I mean, come on, come on. We know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, let's get to it. But I do like this exchange here. A suit of armor. The headless knight wears a suit of armor. And then Kel says to him, "Well, what are you gonna do about it?" He's like, "Oh, nothing. Nothing, I guess."
And then Kel looks back at this portrait, and there's eyes that are just kind of like looking around.
They're put back in, and a gentleman walks up to them.
Yeah, Kel goes, man, he is ugly. Yeah, I guess he's not pretty, that says Kenan. He's far from pretty. He ugly. Hello, this man says.
Yes. I see you're admiring my self-portrait.
Yep.
I'm Arthur.
Yeah, but Kel goes, man, we're not admiring it. That picture is ugly.
I will say, this is the same, was it Nightmare of Evil from the painting episode. This guy doesn't look super a lot like the painting.
Right, no, not very much. But he is a scary-looking, tall, white man.
Well, I'll say it right now, he's a very Chris type, isn't he? He's a little more English and proper.
Yes, he's who Chris aspires to be.
Yeah, as soon as he says his name's Arthur, you might take a guess at what figure in this film this guy matches to.
What would you say, Adam?
Well, King Arthur was known as a knight. He was one of the knights of the Round Table. He was the head knight, the king. Nighty night night. Okay, let's.
Thank you, Adam, for that historical explanation.
You're welcome.
They're like, they're thinking this is pretty creepy. They're like, oh, maybe we should get out of here. Can we just call a tow truck to get our parents towed?
Unfortunately, all the phone lines are dead.
Oh, they killed them. They killed the phones, Kel says.
Kenan talks him down, and he's like, and he says again, he's like, I'll send a car to pick up your family as soon as the storm dies down. Like,
yeah, they're like, that would be great. And they're just kind of like, what's going on here? And then he says, why don't you move to the study? You can dry in front of the fireplace.
Mm-hmm. With the other guests. Right.
Really interesting set here. It's like the giant mansion. There's books everywhere. It definitely feels like a real set.
Oh, absolutely. This is the best sets on Kenan and Kel.
Yeah.
The highest budget, of course. These are whole like mansions that were, I don't know if the whole thing was constructed, but they're corner to corner with interesting to look at like mansion stuff.
Right.
There's all kinds of trophies on the walls and knickknacks, and everything looks sinister and spooky in a very classic way.
Basically, we go to the fireplace, and there's a bunch of people there.
Yep, there are 5 other guests.
In this abandoned town and this giant building on top of a hill. Who's there, Adam?
Well, first, there's the Shelleys.
The Shelleys are there. Here they are. Welcome aboard, Shelleys. Thank you for being here.
And we see that Lady Shelley has a cast on her foot. What happened to her?
What happened to your leg? Oh, well, I injured it diving out of the way of the world's biggest ball of string. And then Kenan and Kel, when they're about to sit down, they just pause midair, look at each other.
Yeah, you hear like a break sound.
And then sit back down, yep.
And there's a young couple and their grandfather, which is very funny because the guy introduces himself as Harold Takamoto and his wife Nancy and his grandfather Leo.
Yeah, it's a black couple and an old white grandfather. Which is, that fits. That's fine. But the grandfather is just a piece. He's a piece of garbage. He's just this mean, grumpy old man who's dressed in a suit and he's just smoking cigars.
Yeah, I'll get to him in a second. But it's also funny that their last name is Takamoto.
Yeah, it doesn't really map here, but.
Yeah, it's like they're just very off base. They're like Sean Connery and Highlander. He's just a big mix.
Nothing wrong with an untraditional family, but I mean, whatever. We got some good extras here.
Yeah, I do want to point out Uncle Leo or Grandpa Leo. He's credited as Uncle Leo. That's wrong. His great Grandpa Leo is played by Milton Berle. Milton Berle was born in 1908, died in 2002. He was like a Hollywood legend.
Oh my gosh, really?
American comedian and actor, and like he has done like a bunch of crazy movies over the years. I mean, more recent ones that people might be familiar with is It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, the Muppets movie. He plays Madman Mooney. He had the Milton Berle Show, which for many years, and yeah, so he had he was an extra in movies back in like the 1920s.
Oh my God!
He's credited as Boy in The Perils of Pauline in 1914. Like,
oh my God!
And this is his final performance.
No way.
This is the last one.
Wow. What? What?
So they included him because he's like a comedy legend that they could kind of do, and his bit throughout the whole movie, it's an old man bit. It's like basically the same as the guy in Good Burger. Plays in Good Burger.
Right.
Yeah, this same type of big Hollywood role played, in this background here. But, he plays Grandpa Leo and is just angry and grumpy the whole time.
And somehow he ended up here. Like all of these characters. We don't know how they ended up here, but it is great to know that backstory. Thanks, Adam. Yeah, so he was what? He was 90...
Like 91? 90?
88? 92.
Oh, wait, the Shelley says to Kenan and Kel, like, where's the rest of your lovely family? And he's like, well, they were with the car that broke down and you drove right past us. And he's like, oh, I see.
Yep. They're just oblivious. Grandpa Leo makes one of these bad jokes. And then Nancy goes, isn't he a hoot? Kenan's like, well, not exactly. Arthur goes, Kenan and Kel had the misfortune of their car breaking down.
But then he's like, it looks like the storm's not going to go away for a while. Looks like you'll be stuck here.
Basically, Arthur invites them over to dinner.
Yep. And so it's going to be, dinner at the spooky house. What's going to happen?
Yep. They're like, Arthur has been so kind to us. Leo goes, kind of a jerk. And then anyways, he invites them for dinner.
We flash back to the Rockmores in the car. Kyra went to sleep, of course. even in like the side story, she's been taken out of it. Cheryl's getting upset because all their bags are getting ruined by the rain. And Roger commits to bringing them into the car.
Yeah, because he didn't get the waterproof luggage.
Yes, he cheaped out on that, so now he has to go out and get them.
He doesn't have to. Cheryl tells him not to, but he wants to anyways because that's Roger.
That's a very good distinction. Yes, he's pulling them in. He
steps out into a giant puddle, of course. Climbs on the hood of the car in the rainstorm.
And he like, it's funny because you hear Cheryl from the inside. She's like, no, don't do it, Roger, don't do it. Get mine in the front. Get the one in the front. That's mine. Like she shifts gears. And
then Roger, the tallest man in 50 square miles, standing on top of the car, gets struck by lightning.
Yep. Special effect is lightning courses across his giant bald body. And his shirt, like, it's blown up and he falls onto the ground.
Then he stands up like it's no big deal. His clothes are just tattered.
And Cheryl's like, get back in the car. And he's like, why? Because he's a man that's lost it.
He's like...
He says, what are the chances of getting hit by lightning a second time?
Bzzz, and he gets struck by lightning again.
Yeah, the universe just has it out for Roger, doesn't it?
It does. The Kenan and Kel universe, at least.
But karmically speaking, he did this. Like, he didn't get the waterproof luggage.
I guess he's cheap. Yeah, everything that bad happens because he's cheap.
And also because he's arrogant. He chooses to.
And he doesn't let anybody help. He didn't let Kel pump the gas. It gets covered in gasoline. Didn't let Kyra fix the car.
Now they're stuck.
They're stuck. I didn't listen to Cheryl.
And he kind of reaps what he sows right here.
I agree.
Now we have half of the dining room scene, and then that's the end of part 2. What do you think of this dining room set, Aaron?
It's terrifying.
Yes. It's this giant table.
These chairs are enormous.
Oh, yeah. It's a big, spooky set. Arthur's sitting at the head. We didn't mention this. He's got a little, like, ascot.
Yep.
And, like, a kind of a sequin, like, dark colors.
Yep. The Wilsons are just fangirling over this house. Shelley says, "Oh, I just love what you've done with this place." Arthur goes, "I kind of have a hobby for interior decorating." But not before Sheldon says, I love all the paintings. I'm sensing a medieval bloody battle theme.
And meanwhile, Kenan's just like losing it.
I'm sensing more of the kind of cutting people's heads off kind of theme. And then Kel laughs.
Yeah. And then Arthur instructs Nancy to wash her hands before dinner. Like, just her.
Yeah, your hands look a little dirty. Why don't you go to the restroom down the hall? Kenan's shaking his head. Don't do it. Don't go.
And yeah, she's just like, oh, I guess so. Because, like, you can tell that, Harold, Nancy, and Uncle and Grandpa Leo are, like, from the horror movie that this movie is intersecting with. Like, they're from the regular one. Meanwhile, Kenan and Kel weren't supposed to be here.
Right. Yeah, it kind of feels like that. Neither were Shelley. Or Shelley.
Yeah, neither of the Shallows. Those three are like the real targets here.
Harold goes to stand up to go with Nancy, and then Arthur goes, "No, your hands are fine. Stay here."
So yeah, she leaves off on her own. Meanwhile, Arthur talks about look out for my was it sister? Does he say?
Yeah.
My sister will be serving us.
Yep. She was unfortunately born with no eyelids, so don't stare. That's what he asks them to do.
Yeah. So Bethel. Huh. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Bethel.
That's our second Bethel of Kenan and Kel.
No, that's Ethel Quagmire.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Bethel. She enters with these trays, these big, covered trays, and Kenan and Kel have do not follow Arthur's instructions.
They're staring at her.
Kenan says, "Blink you. I mean, thank you."
Exactly. Yeah, so like they, dinner is served. Cal puts the napkin in his thing. Leo, before dinner is served, he goes, "Are we gonna eat soon, jerk face?" He's just a total horrible man. Reminds me of a New Yorker.
Yeah, you got that New Yorker energy.
And then Kel goes, "Oh, you don't have any eyelids." And Kenan's trying to cover for him. Eyelids? He meant violets. It would really spice up the place.
Do you have any orange soda to drink? He said drink, not blink. Oh, never mind.
It's a mess. It's a terrifying, scary mess.
Meanwhile, we see Nancy walking through the hallway. Mind her own business, going to the bathroom.
Innocent little Nancy. Kind of terrified.
What happens to Nancy, Aaron?
She gets grabbed by Chives.
And who, kind of spins around on this, hidden wall.
And then it says to be continued.
Yep. Halfway through, this haunted house, we go, oh no, what's going to happen?
I wonder what's going to happen here, Adam.
Oh, are we going to talk about it next time, Aaron?
I think we have to. I think we have to talk about it next time because that's the end of this episode.
Well, thank you for joining us for part 2 of Two Heads Are Better Than None. Get ready for the finale next go-around where we get to the bottom. What's going on in Arthur's house?
We have to find out. We just simply must find out how Kenan and Kel ends forever.
Yeah, don't lose your head. See you next week.
Don't forget, everybody, 2 heads are better than none. Except the 3rd episode is better than the 2nd. Or not.
You didn't like this one better than the first one? You think it's starting to go downhill?
No, it has been going downhill.
Yeah, I think the first half was a lot stronger than this piece.
Well, I guess we're going to have to find out how it wraps up and then do our little review.
Sounds good to me.
Until next time, everybody. Until part 3. Oh, to be continued.
Thank you for listening. You can send us an email at KenanCalPodcast@gmail.com or leave us a voicemail at anchor.fm/KenanCalPodcast. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all at KenanCalPodcast.